Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks for inviting me and having me for this session. Just one second. Yeah. I mean, it's glad to be, and it's an honor for me to be presenting in this session where almost everybody is my teacher, or not almost, actually everybody is my teacher. So I'm probably the junior most here. I'm going to discuss two cases today, both the cases that highlight different approaches to dislocated IOL or complicated cataract management. And the first case that I wanted to show is a 55-year-old person who had come to our institute many years back, and 2012, and had a cataract surgery and a double aniridia ring by one of the senior consultants in our hospital, but came back 5 years later after the primary surgery, having dislocated the entire bag IOL complex with the aniridia rings. So this is just to show you on in a photograph how it appears. To show you in real time, this is the entire superior half was going down. It was like a setting sun sign, and you can even make out the aniridia ring. It was a double aniridia ring. So it's a huge, heavy, bulky bag complex with an IOL and two aniridia rings that's been dangling down there. We have a few choices now we could do. The first is you explant the entire thing and perform an entire sutured scleral fixation surgery, which is probably one of the more reasonable things to do, since it's a very heavy complex that's hanging around. The other more daring thing would be to try and fixate the whole thing using some sort of segments or hooks. You have choices in terms of fixation, in terms of an iris fixation or intrascleral or a glued IOL fixation. Or, I'm not a diet, so this 6 number is not for me, but maybe a refer to my colleague could be a sensible option in a situation like this. So this is what we decided to do. This is just to show you the extent of zonular laxity. So we thought, let's see if we can try and cleave the whole capsular bag open. So I'm using one of those DMEC forceps to hold the capsular bag, since there's literally no zonules, and using a 26 gauge needle to cleave out an entire plane in the capsular bag. Now, since there was an aniridia ring, the aniridia ring is PMMA, and it's not as firmly adherent, and it's not as fibrotic in its nature as compared to the other hydrophilic material. So it was easy to cleave a plane on one side, and then we went from the opposite end and tried to cleave a plane even on the temporal side of the patient's eye. Little bit of a jugglery, considering you need a bimanual approach and you need a rock steady left hand to keep the entire complex stable. We were able to achieve a good cleavage plane, so I decided to go ahead and plant an Ahmed segment in the distal, which is the nasal quadrant. And there goes the Ahmed segment, and we are using Gore-Tex suture. The idea was to try and fixate this entire bag complex, because otherwise you'll have to put a large glued scleral IOL, an aniridia IOL, which is a big PMMA and would require a big cut. So using a double arm technique, we used a 26 gauge needle on 24 gauge needle on one side, and we threaded it, railroaded it, and we pulled out the Gore-Tex from a distant flap, which we had dissected out. And you can see over here. Now, Gore-Tex is an immensely strong suture, was used for cardiac pericardial stitching, and I think it's now being used quite comfortably for even ocular use. And the way we stitched distal fragment, and similarly I put in an Ahmed segment in the nasal part and sutured that also with the Gore-Tex. The flaps that we have made were sutured off using nylon suture. And this is how it looks. Very luckily, despite these heroics, we were able to secure and maintain the entire complex right in the eye without a need for explant. And this is how the eye looks at 1 week post-operatively. Because there was less manipulations in the eye, the cornea seemed to have taken the brunt very well. And the IOL bag complex looks fairly stable and fairly centered. But once the pupil goes down, it looks a little better. So this is at 1 month post-operatively. And this is just to show you in retro illumination that the optic is right in the center of the eye. Now, it would be an equally difficult task to explant each of these rings out, then explant the IOL and do a scleral fixation, a lot of manipulation, but we were able to get away by not doing as bad by opening up the eye, although manipulation was required in this eye as well. This is just to highlight another case, a 29-year-old young person who's probably had a needling done in infancy elsewhere. And secondary IOLs were also done subsequently at a very young age of 5 years, and then had a trauma, and now complains of blurring and dimness of vision. And this is how the patient presented to us in our clinic. And you can see again, it looks what looks to be a PMMA IOL, which was placed in the sulcus, has now luxated down and is probably about to fall off. Now, again, there are various choices. One can explant this lens, which is a fairly reasonable option. And I think, or one can try and stitch off this lens again inside the eye. Again, in terms of a PMMA IOL, my experience with PMMAs has been very low because we've hardly used PMMAs. So between the two choices that I had, which was repositioning the same IOL, trying to rotate it in the sulcus, or explant this IOL and exchange it for another IOL, I decided to best go ahead and explant the IOL in this case, trying to keep things simple. Because primarily, I don't know what's been done. And secondarily, it's a PMMA lens, and I don't know, my suturing this is not going to be easy since there's not even an eyelet in the haptics. It's very important to prevent any corneal damage. So my preferred viscoelastic is a dispersive viscoat with which I copiously coat the endothelium, especially when I'm manipulating any lens out of the bag or any lens for an explant. And again, like I said, in my hands, I've realized PMMAs are easy lenses relative to expand because they tend to slip out easy and their adhesions are not as bad as the hydrophilic and hydrophobic lenses. And so once we pulled the entire IOL inside, we anteriorly luxated it back into the sulcus space. We went ahead, and because it's a PMMA lens, I didn't try to cut it off also. I just generously extended the incision. You can use your scissors to extend it. I used the 2.4 knife because that is what I had at hand. And it's always good to have a little larger incision in such an eye because you don't want to put any trauma and try and cause an endothelial damage or cause any other problems. And the entire IOL comes out en bloc in this eye. Again, of all the many techniques that are there for IOL fixation, before that, I tried to suture the incision off because if there any manipulation required, such a big incision may not be required unless and until you're trying to put a PMMA lens. Now, since we found an adequate sulcus space when we were operating and a stable sulcus space, I decided to go ahead and plant a 3-piece lens. Now, I could have gone ahead, done a pars plana vitrectomy, taken off this entire, capsular bag, PCO complex and try to intrascleral fixate a lens. But in an eye which has already had 2 surgeries and a trauma, in my mind, I thought the best approach would be to do as less as possible and trying to give back patient the vision he wanted. So I chose a 3-piece IOL, since the incision was large, I injected into the eye, and it's easy to implant this lens and rotate it to the sulcus. It doesn't require much skill. And I didn't want to do any more manipulations in the eye, which was already damaged. So this was another way, of handling this. Again, like what would have been your choice, there could have been many more choices. One could have gone for intrascleral fixation, but you would have to clear off the bag in that case. But in my case, I chose a sulcus support. It's needless to say that whenever you operate an eye like this, it's very important to keep in mind that there may be vitreous presentation or prolapse, and one has to be very, very thorough in diagnosing any vitreous prolapse because in an eye which has had so much to bear, you are committed. If you're operating an eye like this, you're committed to finding out the vitreous and tackling it. So we used triamcinolone to look for vitreous, and since there was no vitreous, we hydrated the incisions and finished off the surgery. Post-operative follow-up at 1 month, patient was 20/30 with a slightly hyperopic correction. And fortunately for the patient and fortunately for us, the IOP was maintained. Posterior chamber was good and patient recovered very well. I'm sorry, I don't have a post-operative picture to share, but believe me, it's a well-centered lens. You can't go wrong by placing a lens in a 3-piece lens in a sulcus because it's most likely going to stay centered. Thank you.